Russia has gathered between 75 and 100,000 soldiers at the border to Ukraine. This troop deployment puts great pressure on the West to react. How big is the threat, and what would be a smart course of action be? I look forward to answers from Stefan Meister. Stefan Meister is the expert all things Russia at the German Council on Foreign Relations. Stefan, before we turn to the analysis, let's have a quick recap. On a tension scale of 1 to 10, where 10 means World War III, where do we stand and why?
I would say we are maybe at 5. So I would say let's call it 50-50. I don't expect that Russia will attack Ukraine with a large-scale maneuver or with a large-scale attack. I think this is just too costly, and these approximately 100,000 troops are too small. But you never know. I think that's part of the game. Yeah. So it's also increasing leverage for bargaining for Russia, and it's part of the game to give the impression and maybe even to do this attack. So I would say we maybe overestimate the possibility, but we should really not underestimate also the possibility of any kind of attack from the Russian side.
And what would be the Kremlin's strategic objective by invading Ukraine?
As I said, I don't think they will invade. I think it's much more about increasing its bargaining positions toward the US and towards NATO. It is about arms supply for Ukraine. So I think Russians really are afraid of that the balance of power is changing with Turkish drones, but also US and other NATO members' weapon supply for Ukraine. And the second point is here about no further, or to get the confirmation and maybe even a written confirmation of a no further integration of Ukraine or Eastern countries into NATO. And I would maybe even add the fourth point. I think we have a change here also in the Russian position. It was in the past, it was happy with the situation in Eastern Ukraine. Time was playing for Russia. And it has had the impression that it will, on one point, get what it wants: federalization of Ukraine and keeping it under control. I think now, with this changing maybe security situation and also changing Ukrainian policy, I think they have the impression that maybe this will not come. And I think they put now Ukraine and also US and European partners here under pressure with this military build-up. So again, I don't think this is about a large-scale military maneuver, but if it would be rather taking parts of Ukraine than entering whole Ukraine, because it's, as I said, it's too costly, it's too big, especially with this relatively small troops they have at the moment.
Okay, and if we put ourselves in the perspective of the Russians, do you think their fears are justified? Are there actually any plans to let Ukraine into NATO?
No, I think it was clearly said that there is at the moment no plan to let Ukraine into NATO. It's also about that Ukraine does not control its entire territory. So I think Russia already made this step, and I think that will be for any country very difficult to be integrated. There will be no guarantees at the same time. Yeah, I think you never know in middle and long term. There might be this will also to integrate Ukraine, but this is about Ukrainians' decision to apply for. And then as I said, I think there will be several member states, including Germany and France, which have no interest at all to integrate Ukraine because it will create less security for the alliance. Yeah, so and that's why I don't think this is really not a reason for this huge military build-up and to put Ukraine in such a way under pressure. And we should not forget, this is also annexation of Crimea and the war in Donbass. I think this is also about NATO enlargement. So I think Russia already changed the rules of the game. And so I don't think this is really likely soon to come at all.
Okay, you already touched upon the position of Germany. We see that the country's former government kind of sent conflicting signals to Ukraine. On the one hand, they promised political support, but on the other hand, they also pushed forward the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which would weaken the Ukrainian position vis-à-vis Russia. So what do you expect of the new German government?
So I think we already saw that with regard to Nord Stream 2, there is a clear messaging that there's no support from for instance, from the Foreign Minister Baerbock. She's very critical about Nord Stream 2 pipeline. At the same time, Olaf Scholz, as the new Chancellor and former Minister of Finance, he also made clear this is a bureaucratic process. So it will go through the German bureaucracy with the Federal Net Agency at the moment. But then it will be, first of all, about Brussels. And the way how Brussels is and the EU institutions are doing the certification process also for Nord Stream 2. My impression is Germany is less supportive now with this new government for Nord Stream 2 and wants to get it regulated in Brussels without too much German interference, hoping also that there will be not a full 100% gas going through, because it is not in line with the unbundling rules. So I think it's rather less support and more Europeanization, you can say, of this pipeline.
So you say on the one hand that there is a Russian threat because they have 100,000 troops, but this threat is not big enough to really invade. But if we take the case that there might be an invasion, what do you think would be a good response by the West?
I think it's about increasing costs. Yeah, costs for any invasion Russia is doing. So I also said it's possible. I don't exclude it completely. So I think it is about raising the price. That means economic sanctions. I think the US even discussed already swift sanctions, so cutting off Russia from the global financial system. I think that will be the last thing which will happen. But I think there are several scales until these kind of very large scale financial sanctions. I think what we see is more weapon supply for Ukraine. So defense weapons, also drones, but also to defend also Ukrainian territory. I think this is also increasing the price for any kind of attack. And then I think it's also about political pressure. Yeah, so public political pressure, but with clear consequences, as I said, mainly sanctions. And I think it's important to have this kind of united approach. So it's not that the US is now talking, or US president is now talking with Putin and is maybe dealing out something, but it is about a clear common approach on sanctions, on military support from all Western allies.
All right, one last question. Why is this conflict emerging now? Do you think it has political interior motives within Russia, or is it somehow related to the European Eastern Partnership Summit, which is coming up from the European Union? What do you think are the reasons that we're discussing this now?
I think it is about changing the rules of the game in Ukraine. So it is about new weapon systems, also drone systems to supply to Ukraine, and maybe the possibility that it will be more difficult also from the Russian side to attack or invade in a way Ukraine. It's maybe also about testing the US president, who is in a difficult situation domestically, and looking and has maybe a limited interest also on dealing with Eastern European issues. So finding out how far can Russia go, and maybe we can even argue we are in an intermediate period from an old and a new government in Germany. Germany as a leading country in Europe, I think that can also play a role to use this opportunity, but also to test maybe the new government, how they will react. And I think it's maybe that's the fourth point. It's also about Ukraine itself. So Ukrainian President Zelensky, he's attacking several oligarchs which have good ties also with Russia, and that might be also a reason why it happens now. So it's about also having less impact on Ukrainian domestic policy with this regard.
Thank you, Stefan, for providing these answers to us. To everyone else, thank you for watching, and feel free to subscribe to our channel for more insights on German and international politics.